Hello and welcome to Celebrating You, and I am so excited and grateful to have Camilla Miller, parenting coach, with me today. And hello, Camilla, and welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to share you and your amazingness. And so what I would like to start by asking is, how come you became a parenting coach?
Good question.
Yes.
Yes.
How does one become a parenting coach, and what is a parenting coach?
Well, I will start first off, I have two children. My son is now 13 and my daughter 11. And really, I want to credit my kids about why I became a parenting coach, especially my daughter, because having my son first, he was one of those really easy, kind of compliant kids, and I really didn't think much about parenting. And I think when we have more easy, laid back kids, we don't really think. We sort of parent on autopilot. We don't question what we do. And I used to think I was the most amazing parent, and used to think, why, what all the fuss about? You know, all my friends complaining, because he was just so compliant, and I thought it was to do with me and my parenting rather than just having an easy child. Until 2 years later, my daughter was born, and the moment she was born, she picked her head up off the table, looked round, and I knew that she was going to be one of those feisty kids, like the 0 to 60 kind of kids that would go from completely calm to full-blown mega tantrums. And I suddenly realized it wasn't my parenting that was so good. It was just I had an easy child with my son. And it was my daughter sort of made me question what I was doing. And at the time, all the advice I was given was just making things a lot worse. And there was at the height of Super Nanny. I don't remember if you remember.
I do remember Super Nanny in her cool glasses.
Oh, yes. My God. And that's what I thought, you know, everybody thought that's what we should be doing, the naughty step and taking things away and the reward charts. And it wasn't working with my daughter. And little do I know that it's a TV show. Yes, they want quick fixes, and it's not real life. And we're made to believe this is what we should be doing. And with a more challenging child, it just didn't work. And I ended up dragging her off to the naughty step hundreds of times a day. And I was crying. I thought I was a terrible parent, that I wasn't doing it right. There was something wrong with me. I was thinking that I wasn't strict enough, that I wasn't firm enough, that she needed to know who was boss. And we just got stuck in a complete power struggle. And then I started thinking that not only was I a bad mom, but I also had a bad child, and there's something wrong with her. She was inherently bad and wouldn't listen. And it's just not a good place to be as a parent, because as a parent, you want to enjoy your kids, don't you? You want to have calm at home. You want to enjoy the time together, and the whole day was full of battles and shouting and stress. So yeah, I started really thinking there had to be another way. I was thinking there has to be another way where I don't have to be shouting and manhandling my child to get her to brush her teeth in the morning. And this is when I started looking for a new way. And I started reading all the books. I went on a parenting course, and it still wasn't enough. I still wanted more answers. So that's when I started digging a bit deeper and became a parenting coach, because I'm so passionate about passing these skills on to parents, because I struggled for so many years, like for 4 or 5 years, really struggled. And looking back, I really wish someone had said to me then, it doesn't have to be like that. There is another way. That's why I want to spread the word that there is another way. So that is why, that's my daughter is the why.
Goodness, that's extraordinary. I often hear that when somebody almost comes to the adage of when somebody comes to their knees and almost looks up to the heaven and says, there must be another way. It's like a moment, isn't it?
Yes. It's a bit, you just get to such, you don't want to throw the towel in. You've had enough, it's not working. And you just end up feeling so guilty. You go to bed feeling guilty, and every morning you wake up thinking that tomorrow you're not going to shout. Tomorrow it's going to be different. And it's almost like that's what you want. You know, you get to a stage of, you know what you don't want, I don't think any parent wants to wake up and shout at their kids. No, you don't be doing that, but you don't know another way. And this is the thing I say to some of my clients, is that you know what you don't want, but you don't necessarily know how to get what you want.
Yeah.
And we see, we parent on autopilot. We parent how we were parented, or we hated how we were parented, so we do the complete opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is in all relationships. And I think becoming a parenting coach, you realize it's not just about parenting, but it's about the relationship with yourself, the relationship with your partner. It's all relationships in life. And traditionally, we look at parenting as very black and white. If I'm not strict, if I'm not controlling my kid, and threatening and bribing and all the other manipulative tools we use, then the other option is permissive. And it's almost like we try the strict one, and then we end up feeling guilty because we shouted too much and it's not working. So then we go like, well, what the hell anyway, have it anyway. We go to permissive. The kids are ruling the roost, and that doesn't work either, because we're like holding onto our patience, and then we flip. And this is what I call yo-yo parenting, is we go back and forth between these two spots, because neither work. But typically this is the process that we've been taught, the behavioral psychology, which is based on the B.F. Skinner's work, which is where the naughty step actually came from, because he actually
hurts my tummy, that does.
He studied rats and pigeons,
yeah,
enough. So he realized that if you gave an electric shock to a rat, it would make it run round the maze quicker, or it gave food to the rat. Yes, it would. That works. The carrot and stick does work, and that's a traditional parenting, is we think that it works in the moment. Because yes, you can get anybody to comply in the moment, can't you? But we don't really sort of pay much attention to how the rat feels to its mother. We don't really ask that question.
Poor little ratty.
Health. We don't ask that question. We just want the rat to move around the maze quicker, and we don't ask whether the rat would carry on running around the maze after we've stopped giving it food. We ask ourselves these questions, and it's the same thing with our children, for these quick fixes.
One second. I just paused it a second, so I've just.
Yes.
Oh wait, I think I've paused. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, often we look at what we want our children to do. A lot of traditional parenting is we focus on just the behavior, and that's where behavior science comes from. The behavior psychology is we just want the behavior to happen. You just want your children to brush your teeth. You just want your children to sit at the table. And we sometimes forget actually what our children need from us. And we just want to raise compliant children, because that's easy for us. And if you think about it, this is programmed into us from a young age, even at a subconscious level. When somebody has a baby, we say, oh, is it a good baby?
Yeah.
What does that mean, a good baby? Like, how can a baby be good? But what we really mean is the baby compliant? Is it easy for us? So, does it sleep through the night? Does it cry? Does it need more burping? So therefore, that's a bad baby. Even at a default, that's what we look for. So we start looking at children as good or bad. If they're easy to us, if they're compliant, they're easy, they're good. So the more challenging children, just by default, they are bad. And this is how, even at a subconscious level, this is what they think. And then so we start looking at behavior like this, as our job is just to get our kids to comply. And that's just not how humans work. So if they're complying to us, they're going to comply to their friends, because they don't know who they are. And they think the whole purpose in life is to please other people. That's
Goodness me. That's so deep.
It's true, isn't it?
It's true, because you are describing how codependency is seeded.
Yes.
The garden of codependency is, look at my good baby, look at my good baby. He sleeps through the night. Oh, good baby. He's an angel baby. Yes. Yours cries, oh dear, what a shame.
Yes, it's easy to me. So we think that our children are like, they control our mood. I'm only happy if you are, you make mummy very sad, we say to our children.
Yeah.
Or you make mummy very happy if they do something. Yeah. So it's almost like their whole purpose is to please us. And this is how they see it. I remember my daughter, when she was about four 4.5, she was messing around getting in the bath one evening. She was dancing in the bathroom, doing a cartwheel or something. And my husband said something so common. It's like, for goodness sake, just get in the bath, just be good.
Wow.
That's something you typically hear parents say, just be good. And I remember thinking, and so when he left the room, I asked her, what does that mean, just be good? And she said, it means I'm not good. It means I'm bad.
That's so deep and existential. You had that conversation with your daughter, who was how old?
She was 4.5.
That's just so enlightened, that conversation.
But our kids pick up on this. So even
Of course they do. They're completely awake and conscious.
Yes. So my son, before I became a parenting coach, he was the good boy because he was more compliant. So he was good boy a lot. And she,
good boy.
just by default, she didn't get that because she wasn't as compliant. So she said to me, how come I don't get good girls?
Good girls.
And even when children don't recognize it, don't actually verbalize it, this is how they feel. And so then they start looking at, I'm only good if I'm doing. Yes.
Wow.
I'm good if I'm doing something. And I want to say to the parent, your children are good just for being. Yes, just for being born, they are good. So from the sense of that they are good, that they are grounded in their greatness, this is where behavior comes from. Not that they have to look outside themselves for validation, that they're only making somebody happy to comply. And if you have a more challenging child, they have a strong message from get-go a lot of the time, that they're bad, that there's something wrong with them inherently. And this is where a lot of the frustration comes from.
Wow, you've just said something so powerful. I just need to say it again. It was so, so beautiful. You are good because you are grounded in your greatness.
Yes.
So you are good because you are, not because what you did or didn't do to suit me.
Yes.
How powerful is that?
So
that literally took my breath away. I just needed to say that again. That turns around the whole of humanity, that one line.
Yes.
Right?
To know we are.
Know that.
I used to say to my kids growing up, what do you have to do to make mommy love you?
Wow, that's a really enlightened question.
But I used to get them to answer nothing, just be me.
Oh,
that's what I want.
That's beautiful.
Yes, it's so beautiful because they didn't have to do anything for my love.
And prove themselves worthy of your love.
And traditionally parenting, it is not unconditional parenting, it's conditional parenting. Traditional parenting is, I'll only be happy if you're pleasing me. Yes, so it's not, if you've done something I don't like, I'm going to push you away. I'm going to put you on the naughty step. I don't want to be with you if you're sad. I'm going to push you outside the tribe. That is what traditional parenting is. It's conditional. It's saying, if you're not pleasing me, I don't want to know. That's what you're literally doing when you put your child on the naughty step. You're saying, you're struggling and I don't want to know. Only when you're doing something I like, am I with you. And this is really unsettling for kids because your basic human need is a need for connection.
Wow.
So if your child feels that they are not connected because they can't be truly who they are, that's where a lot of the problems come from. So we need to bring our kids closer to us. Okay, it's not just a transactional model. A lot of parenting, traditional parenting is very transactional, isn't it? If you do this, I'll do that. Yes, but that's not how relationships work. And I want you to imagine if it's not a child you're talking to, but you're talking to your best friend or talking to your partner. You would never do that to another human. You wouldn't say, because you spilt the milk, that's it. You can't watch TV tonight. I don't think you're happy with that.
I beg to differ, actually. I think most relationships, I'm going to be really outrageous. Most relationships are very conditional, actually.
Yes.
And you didn't do that thing that I expected you to do, that there's no way you could know I wanted you to do it because you can't read my mind. But now I'm going to have a silence drop and go and have a bath for an hour and not speak to you and then go to bed early and
I know.
avoid.
Yes.
So I'm putting you, partner, on the naughty step and you don't know. And then there's just going to be a bad atmosphere and a white elephant in the room and go to bed, rest and repeat.
Yes, but I suppose you're right. It's not in the
but true.
But actually, yes, in those kind of dynamics.
Happens in other relationships as well. In the work relationships, the same thing. Unless you produce and sell and make me lots of money, I don't like you, and I'm not I don't like you, but I'm not going to acknowledge you as a good member of staff. It's happening everywhere. What you're talking about is the foundation of, let's create a good society that works from the beginning, which is why I think what you do is so exciting and important.
Yes, it is about all relationships, and that's what I love about the work that I teach, because it's not just about your children. And I think a lot of it is about how can you get your children. We ask the wrong questions in relationships. We ask, how can I get someone to do something? Yes. You should be asking, how can I support my child to do something? What is actually missing in my relationship? Why isn't my child behaving the way that I do? Whether the way that I want to. That's where we need to be focusing on. And the reasons it fails, you say, even with relationships, is that we look at it as demand control relationships, and we can't control somebody else. And we realize when we try and control our kids, we can't make them sleep, we can't make them eat, we can't make them go to the toilet. Like, you can't make your kids do anything. You can make them wish they had by punishing them, but you can't make them do something. You can't, can you?
My heart and tummy hurts. So do you have an example, like a simple example, like non-compliant child, some parenting intervention, and then the result, the behavioural change, so that I can understand how that might get rerouted?
Well, we have to ask, if we want our children to, say, help in the kitchen, after we want them to help tidy up.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we ask. We could bribe them. Yes, we could say, if you clean the kitchen every day this week, I'll give you some money.
Yes.
And yes, it might work that week, but actually your child is doing it for something else. They're not doing it because they feel intrinsically motivated. They're doing it because they want something. So actually, in that way, when we bribe our children, one, it gets very expensive, because what they're going to say, well, what's in it for me? Yes, if I want 50p one day, £2 the next day, £5 the week after, it gets pretty expensive.
Yeah.
When we do that, yes, we get that behavior, and we think, oh yes, it's working. Yes, it's working. My child is clearing the kitchen. But we rob them of the very reason we want them to do it. You want your child to clean the kitchen because they feel a valued member of the family, that they feel that they contribute to the household, that they feel proud that they can do something, rather than looking outside themselves or what's in it for me. Yes, I remember I had a client, she asked her 5-year-old son to pass a nappy when the baby was born. And he said, what's in it for me? What are you going to give me? And we think that's ungrateful, or that's rude of the child, but who's conditioned the child to do that? So if we're giving them rewards, we're actually robbing our child of the very reason we want them to do.
That's powerful. That's really powerful, because it's taken the individual's power almost away from them, because it's creating a very black or white reality.
Rewards is controlling, and actually there's been lots of research into the problem with praise and reward.
Yes.
And a child that is rewarded or given a sticker for sharing, for example. Well done, Sally, you shared your toy with yes, here you go, you get a sticker on the chart.
Yes.
That child is actually less likely to share further down the line.
Oh, why so? How so? Because they did it just for
because you actually
the dopamine hit in the brain from the reward and the sticker.
Yes. Well, what the parent is actually saying, sharing isn't good enough in its own right, so I have to dangle a carrot.
Goodness me.
Yes, the child is looking out. Well, it can't be that good because I have to be coerced to do it. And actually, we feel controlled. You would feel controlled as well.
Yes.
We've intrinsically, we feel controlled. We feel like we don't have free will to do it. And you might want to do it because you want to do it. But as soon as someone gives you a reward for it, it takes away the very reason we want to do something. So rewards back.
Deeply fascinating.
Yes.
I've never heard that before. That's blown my mind. That's so good. I need to just repeat it. So when I am rewarded or not rewarded for something that I do, it takes away my real honest intention of doing that thing myself. It disempowers, which is so ironic, because up until just right now I believed that praise and reward was a good thing, and I just love that that I'm being shown a different, this really feels true to me. This is really powerful.
Yeah, acknowledgement is different. Acknowledgement, we all want to be acknowledged, don't we?
Okay.
You know, to be acknowledged that we've done a great job, and we want to feel appreciative.
Yes.
That's different. If my kids clean the kitchen, thank you so much. That was so helpful.
Yes.
I've acknowledged they've helped, and I know you'd much rather be playing on on a computer game, or you'd much rather be watching YouTube. You know, that took a lot of self-control to stop and help clear the kitchen. I really appreciate your time. You see,
That's lovely. That feels great to hear that. I love that.
So much heartfelt, rather than saying, if you don't do this, you don't get it. Because that's what you see, you're punished by rewards. We're punished by rewards.
Goodness, that's deep.
You don't get it. If you don't get that reward, then you're looking outside. What's in it for me? Yes, we feel controlled.
And then it's like that little child becomes the rat in the experiment that then goes through the little rat maze of life, going do pathway. Oh, I'll go to college because then I'll get the reward, because then I'll get that title, and then I'll get that money, and then and the choices, the big life choices by the child moving into adulthood, are made on that reward or punishment basis.
Yes,
that's so deep.
It is. Do you know, I was reading an article. Yes, I read an article. This lady got all the way to Harvard to do a PhD at Harvard University. She was mid-40s and realized the only reason she was there was because she'd been good girled by her mother.
Wow.
She didn't be there, but she was always doing it for that reward, for that, from her mother, the conditioning that I will love you if you do this. We look outside ourselves. We do it for the wrong reasons, and it does start.
And may I ask, you've just reminded me of my lovely mum, and I just bless her so much, because she really acknowledges me for who I am as a person. I just spoke to her this morning, and she did the same. And for me, that's worth more than any money or anything. For me, that's of the highest value. That's the biggest gift that I can hear, and especially from my mother, you know. But to be seen and acknowledged for who I am, for me, is the ultimate. Right, and the way that you work, and the premise of what you do in your coaching is cemented from that foundation, I think is of the highest value and vibration.
It's so true, because isn't it what we want? We all want to be seen for who we are.
Yes.
We want to be valued for who we are, not for what we've done, but actually just for showing up, and to have someone validate to you is the biggest accolade from your loved one, to be seen for who you are, not to be molded into something else, but actually just
good girl. Well done. And do you have any anecdote that may help me or the listener to know what's the after result of, now that you've become a parenting coach, and your interventions with your own children? How have you seen maybe their behavior changing?
I think as a parent, when we are stuck in this in the traditional parenting, it's so difficult to move to see that there is another way, and to move away. When you actually get rid of the rewards and punishments, you actually get better behavior. The rewards and punishment aren't the opposite of misbehavior. They actually breed and reinforce each other. So the more you get rid of that transactional model and the rewards and punishments, you get better behavior. And I am thankful every day that I look at my children. I have an amazing relationship with them, but they do things for the right reasons. And my daughter, the 0 to 60 kind of kid, her eyes are bright. She's who she's supposed to be. She has a really positive inner voice. And this is what we want to do with our children, to give them a really positive inner voice, that they're really grounded in who they are. Then they can go out into the world and don't have to look outside themselves for validation. We don't know what the future holds for our children, but to give them a really powerful sense of being, of who they are, they can handle anything that comes to them. And that's what I want for for so many. That's what we want for our children, isn't it? Who knows what the future holds, but to have this positive inner voice, not to be full of themselves, but to just be really grounded and accepting of who they are. This is where we can really coach our children, and that's what I wanted to talk about next. Is this model that I teach, because we can understand and we can read all the parenting books, and we know what we don't want. As we know what we don't want to be doing. We know we don't want to be shouting and cajoling and threatening, or maybe you just had like an epiphany and we're like, oh my God, I don't want to be doing that anymore. But we still need to know what to do. And so many families come to me, they say, look, I've read all the parenting books, I know what I want, but unless it's been modeled to you, you don't have the language, you can't possibly know it. Like, we can only do what we know. So the first step is the awareness step. And I trained with Sandy Blackard, she's the founder of Language of Listening. And I found her about 3 years ago. She is the most incredible woman. I think her framework, she's really cracked the code of how people work.
Wow. That's a huge achievement.
I tell you, she really has, because when you use this model, the more you use it, the more it works. And I introduce people to this model, and they get results within days.
Wow.
Within days, things shift. And I've had families that go from shouting and power struggles for years, and within a week, they've changed. You know, I've had a child he was 3 years old, this family, and he was biting and kicking and hitting at his sister, and it was stressful. Within 3 weeks, it was finished, and he was saying, I did it, I calmed myself, I did it. His voice, I did it.
That's so moving.
No telling off, no punishments, no rewards. He changed his behavior.
That's so moving.
It's just it, and
that's
it worked.
So moving. 3 years old.
3 years old. You are amazed. And this is the thing I want to tell parents.
Taking my breath away.
Advice is, it's just a stage to get through.
Yeah.
It's just a stage to manage. It doesn't matter. You'll get through it.
It'll pass.
Pass. It doesn't. No, I want to tell parents, start young, because the quicker you start, the quicker you see results, because this is how our brains develop.
Yes.
So the quicker you do it, don't wait for a stage. Don't dig your head in the sand and think, oh, it's going to be better, I just need to be firm. No, don't use ineffective tools. They're always ineffective, because that's all we knew. But we now know more. So we can do more if you have the tools. And that's why I get excited, because you see those transformations.
I love your enthusiasm.
Yeah, I do get excited because I love seeing the results for families. I get messages daily from clients telling me, oh my gosh, like there was no shouting at bedtime, or oh my gosh, or we actually had a lovely day today, no fighting. And you just see it work, because this framework, it is the how-to. Not only does it work with people, it's not against people. I think traditional parenting, you feel like it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's pushing against, definitely.
Yes, because it's not how humans work. It's not how we're built. And this way you work with your child. Traditionally parenting, we feel like we're in a battle. It's the parents against the children. Yes, they don't feel love, control. But as soon as you're in control, as soon as you're controlling another human, it's the opposite of love.
Oh gosh, that's really powerful.
As soon as you're there, our children don't feel love. They don't feel connected. We feel like it's a battle. We're against our children. We could never be against our children.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. I'm going to repeat it.
Oh.
If I'm controlling you, I'm not loving you.
Yes.
If I'm being controlled, I'm not being loved. I'm not being respected for who I am. If I'm being controlled and coerced into doing something or not doing something, I'm being given the message that I am not okay at all. Yes. If I am being controlled. So that being controlled is the opposite to loving. And being loved, what you're saying is to be respected and to be enabled to make a choice that is coming from you, not because I'm dangling a reward or a punishment or the naughty step.
Yeah. And and I think parents, we feel like if we're not controlling, then we're not in charge. And there's a huge difference between being controlling and being in charge. Our kids need us to be in charge. They need us to be like the captain of the ship. Yeah, they need us to lead the way. And when we're controlling, we're not doing that. Being in charge, our kids will naturally follow. I think a lot of the time we need to focus on changing the child in order for us to be okay, in order for us to be happy. and we try and control somebody else. The only person we can fully control in our life is ourselves. So when we change, our kids naturally follow. It's not the other way around. And so when we work on ourselves, when we work on how we show up, everything else comes into place. Much easier to work on yourself trying to fix your kids.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to a suffering lockdown parent who's at the end of their tether, screaming at their child to do something or not do something? Not screaming, but
yes,
speaking loudly. What advice would you give
bring
them?
Bring them closer to you. Bring them closer. Love them and love them. And as a parent, we set the mood in the home.
Yes.
It's this is the thing, is like we're all going through hard times. It's recognizing that, but it doesn't define us. Our situations don't define who we are. We still have a choice in how we show up. We can reset the mood. It's up to us. It's not our children's job to reset the mood. Yeah. So when we get stressed, we feel like pushing our kids away and not connecting. But the first step to reset is the connection. Bring them closer, hug them, really see what's going on from their point. A lot of the time we look at it through our eyes, and we look at behavior as if our children should act like an adult, like through our logic and our reasoning. Yeah. But our children don't think like adults. They're not adults. They're not developed to they need 30. Yeah, our children don't have the logic and the reasoning and the understanding. They act out of a very different kind of brain. They're very emotional brain. They're very impulsive, reactive. And a lot of the time we get frustrated as adults because we think that our children should do better. And we have way off expectations. And then we get frustrated.
So if a parent, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So if a parent were to learn to change the expectation, what would happen to the child? Just lower the bar a bit, or just take the bar away?
No, it's about understanding. A lot of the time we get frustrated because we expect our child to do better, but our kids can only do as much as their brain is developed to do. And we get frustrated, so we punish the child as if they should do better. We shouldn't blow the bar. We need to be on the same side. So language of listening, the framework I teach, is only when we see things from our child's viewpoint do we have that connection. Only from that state of connection can we offer guidance. And so it's not about lowering the bar, but I want you to start asking yourself different questions. Why is my child struggling? Why can't I do what I ask? And a lot of the time we expect our children to do something, but we haven't taught them how to do it. So how can we expect them to do better when we haven't taught them how to? Yeah. A lot of the time, because we don't know ourselves, we don't know how to self-regulate. We don't know how to handle our own emotions. And if we can't learn us and do it ourselves, then how can we teach our children? And we hold them to a different standard. As parents, I used to shout and lose my cool and do a whole host of things that I'm now, feel guilty about. However, in that moment, I was doing the best I could. But how can I teach my kids any better if I can't do it myself? So it's not about lowering the bar, it's about teaching and coaching. And language of listening is actually based in coaching your children to do better, to show their inner greatness, that they can do it and bring out their greatness rather than telling them off. Because nobody in the history of ever is learning anything by sitting on the naughty step or being told off. Yes, if someone came and
being
gave you
humiliated
or to be shouted at, no one's learning anything. Your child's not learning. What they're learning is that they've got it wrong again, that they're bad people, that why bother trying, I'm always told off. So when we get stuck in that one, you're not actually teaching your kids, you just get stuck in this blame cycle of blaming your child for what's going on. So language of listening is giving you a framework that teaches you the connection part first and then the guidance part, which is very different. So guiding your children to have the skills, and what it results in increased confidence in your parenting, your greater enjoyment of your kids, your child is happy, your home is happier, and this is where that happens, when we're calm, when we're connected.
And how does that impact the relationship with parents?
The relationship, when we focus on the relationship first, you get willing cooperation. And this is what we want. We want our kids willingly listening. How much easier would that be in life?
Instead of screaming, listen!
You actually have children that want to listen to you.
Wow. Does that sound like words from heaven to most parents? Imagine if your children wanted to listen to you.
Yes. You know, my 13-year-old,
Possible.
it is possible. My 13-year-old son still comes and asks me if he can have a snack on lockdown. He asks me, and he listens,
Beautiful.
asks my opinion. You know, if we're just using the threats and the rewards, that is not building a relationship. That is building a control.
Wow.
Yeah. You actually, when you're controlling your children, you're not building your relationship. And it builds mistrust, and your kids cannot wait to get further away from you. If you just use that reward and punishment and threaten your kids, what are you going to do when your kids are older and you can't put them on the naughty step or take things away and they're off at their friend's house? You don't have a relationship. With language and listenings, you build upon your relationships. Your kids want to listen to you. They want to follow your boundaries, and they care what you think. You know, if we just use the threats, your kids don't care what you think.
Yeah.
And so then you don't have the willing cooperation. So this is why parenting can become, this way is so much easier. It is a leap of faith to get to move away from what we know, because our brain likes what we know, doesn't it? Yes. And when you learn language of listening, it's like learning a new language. The more you use it, the more it works, the more you keep going, and then it just becomes natural. And your children repeat back. That's how they communicate. Wow. What I love is, you think, in moving forward, this is how they show up in their relationships, their future relationships.
Of course, yes? They will.
You know, if I'm shouting at my kids, I'm telling them that they deserve to be shouted at. And no way, when they're older, you don't want with your girls, you don't want a boyfriend shouting at them, do you?
That's a terrible affirmation.
Yes.
Very destructive.
Okay. And if I'm shouting, what am I modeling?
Yeah.
So I want my kids to grow up to think that actually that's not acceptable. I don't want to be shouted at. And they can say, friends, actually, I don't want to be spoken to like that. So that comes from how we model relationships. And it changes so quickly when we focus on the right things.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to just pull out what you said. It just feels like a very compassionate model as well, because from the parent perspective, well, I didn't know any different because I was never modeled. So there's compassion for myself. And then there's the new way of learning to be the change and then model the change and so on, because I can't blame myself for something I did not know and I have not been shown.
Yes.
So it's nice because sadly there is the adage of mother's guilt. And it's a big burden that mothers carry, but it's so compassionate just to let them off the hook, really, and say, look, if you don't know, you don't know, but here's an idea, try it.
Yes.
You look so peaceful and satisfied as a mother. It's just great to see.
Yes, I love the thing about the guilt, because guilt.
Yeah.
We can use guilt if we use it for a catalyst to change. If you feel guilty, yes, and you're not showing up as the mother you know you can be, it's not about beating ourselves up, because you're right, we can only do what we know. Sure. If it hasn't modeled, how can we do that? It's not about making ourselves feel bad. But if you, like with my daughter, I knew deep down, I went to bed feeling guilty. And if we don't do anything about that, that's the problem. But if you have this yearning that things could be different, that you want something different for your family, then you use that as a catalyst to go out and get support, because there is support. And it doesn't mean that our parents got it wrong. I think you're so right. A lot of us feel, if I'm doing it different, then somehow I'm making my parents wrong for how they raised us.
Oh, good point.
But it's so not true. I remember when I was young, I'm one of 5, and I remember driving around. My mum used to have this huge car with this huge boot. And we used to sit in the boot of the car, me and my siblings, and play Snap and Happily Families in the back of the boot of the car. No car seats, nothing. Yeah. And do I blame my mum for that? No, because that was normal behaviour.
That's what you did when we were kids. Yeah.
As a kids. Yeah. But you would never you would never put your child in a car without a car seat now, would we? Yeah, it's just something we know different. Exactly. So it's the same thing with parenting, is that in the past we did it a different way because that's all we knew. But we now know more. You know, positive psychology, for example, has only been studied in universities less than 10 years. Yes. It wasn't a thing. positive psychology. We didn't study it. We didn't know about coaching, life coaching. We didn't have that model. So how can we beat ourselves up for knowing something that wouldn't even exist? It is, if you, I really want to say to parents, if you have the inkling of that you want things to be different, reach out and get that support. It doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. It just means you don't have the tools yet.
Wonderful.
And there's so much more that you can do. I really do. This framework, as you said, it's not about making ourselves wrong or making ourselves, that things could have been different, because we can only do as much as we know.
Yeah.
And even shouting at our kids and manhandling them and threatening them, we're doing it from a place of love, where we think we are. Yes. We're doing it. We want the best for our kids. However, it doesn't work in the way we hope it would work, and that's what backfires. But we don't do it because we're trying to be mean to our kids, and we don't love our kids.
Yeah. Again, that's compassionate too.
Yes.
Yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's wonderful work, and I think it's the way. Everything that you've said is exactly the same for leadership with grown-ups in offices. This is exactly the same principle, empowering people and so on. And it's a real radical anti-cultural, countercultural movement, because it's astonishing. Culture is just based on reward and punishment. We're little rats. Yes. And this is saying, no, little rat, you're a wonderful little rat just because you are, and just for being. And let's live and play and relate from that place of empowerment. I mean, that's amazing. Lots of people talk about empowerment and positivity and stuff, but actually the missing piece is the how-to, which I'm really glad you so well put. We need to know how to, we need to know the tools, we need to know the right questions to ask.
Yes, and I really believe, and the language of listening is 3 simple steps. People, it's 3 easy steps. So it's not a really long process. It's really simple. And once you understand the 3 steps, it's really easy to implement, because it is the how to, exactly. It's what to say, what not to say. Yes. So you become aware of your role within your relationship, with all relationships. This saves marriages as well. I know it saved mine, because and you're not fighting over the best way to parent your kids. I think a lot of marriages fail because we spend the whole time frustrated with each other about and fighting with each other the best way to discipline our children. This way works. So you're not fighting over that, but also you show up differently, you see the world differently, so therefore you show up differently for your partner.
Wow.
And you're in that as we were saying before, going through that of cold shoulders and not talking to your partner for days and
yes.
all that kind of stuff. That doesn't need to be.
I just think that's wonderful. I really do. I just love every word that you've said. It's everything I believe in, and I cannot describe the gratitude and pleasure that I have experienced in listening to this, and just make it my business just to help other people to hear this, because I just think this is so good.
Oh, thank you.
So helpful.
Oh, it's been so lovely getting to know you.
Oh, you too.
Yes, definitely. And I can see how much it aligns with your vision as well. And it's not, and it's not, as you said, it's for all humanity. It's not just for our children. It's just not a tool to get our children to comply. It's to raise children, to raise adults that actually can know who they are. They're grounded in their greatness, and we bring that out. Grounded in your greatness.
What a wonderful line to conclude with.
Oh, thank you so much.
I just want to thank you so much. And how do people get in touch with you? We'll put your links on the bottom of this video.
Yes, please do.
How do you work?
Yes, I have my website, which you can find out more about what I do and how to work with me. I have my Facebook page, and I have my Facebook community, where I do lots of training and have lots of lots of support and encouragement in there as well.
A Facebook group?
Yes.
Oh, great. What's it called?
Keeping or Cool Parenting.
Fantastic. Well, wonderful. I'll put all of that up, and I really believe this is going to help so many people, and you're just going to give so much relief, and you'll just change people's lives as you are. But I just felt everybody needed to hear about this. So
thank you so much for your time.
well, it's my pleasure.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.